JT, it is here. It is absolutely here. The season, look, maybe it's not here, but it is. 1 week away, Labor Day weekend. Labor Day weekend is a huge one to be celebrated, but I always feel like it's sort of the last chance to get anything in because your life, my life is about to change so dramatically because of what football season means to us. Now, look, we're going to get to Kelsey and Swift. We're going to get to Ashton Jeanty, who I'm very excited about. We're going to get to teams going worst to first in this league this season. But I just want everyone to understand first. And we're going to get to our JT's tip of the trade by the time we get out of here today. But let's start it out with this. Let's start out with one thing. I know you've already hit this and it's important. But, there's big news in the world and you can call it football news if you'd like. I imagine you're going to challenge me on this, but we've got, there's an engagement and it was a pretty big deal to a lot of people. I'd love to know where you stand on this, but it is officially here. We've got Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift officially engaged. I consider it big news. Do I consider it big sports news? You know what? I'm going to say, yeah, you know what? It's big sports news. It's big sports news, but you've, I'm sure, had a chance to marinate on this. Where do you see this?
Wow. First off, this is in my wheelhouse. If you go, what's in JT's Mount Rushmore, it's this topic. So first off, a couple of things. As I've said for decades to you, when you produce with me and we've been friends for, speaking of Labor Day, I got married Labor Day weekend 26 years ago. So we're coming up on that.
Happy anniversary, Julie. Let's go.
Yeah. When I got engaged, it didn't go over ESPN.com and I got an alert on my phone. So in Vegas, we have these things called monsoons that only happen this time of year where there's flash flooding. And it could happen. So you get an alert on your phone or an emergency comes on your phone and you look down.
Oh, yeah.
You say,
big deal.
Oh, my God.
Big deal.
There. I got an alert.
Just happened. Yeah, big deal.
I got an alert from ESPN.com that a football player got engaged to a starlet. That is everything my blood and my bones and my soul are against in sports. Sports is supposed to be a refuge of politics, of everything. And I don't want that in my sports. Now, am I biased because I'm in the Raider Nation? Absolutely. If a Raider was dating Taylor Swift and getting married, would I be different? Probably not, but I'd stay in my lane so I wouldn't lose my job, but I'd be disgusted by it too. So this is not sports. It's an athlete. I told you before we started this stream, probably 100 NFL players got engaged over the summer. 50 got married over the summer. Not one of them was on alert on an app, on a website, breaking news when this happened. And it's happening now. And as I said last night on my Mad Dog radio show, I looked up the definition of bandwagon fan. Bandwagon. You can all look it up. And basically, this is the definition of how the Chiefs are building their bandwagon. Millions of fans at a time. The Chiefs were irrelevant from Super Bowl 4 to Super Bowl 54. They had a 50-year drought. People are giving Jerry shit for having a 25 or 30-year drought. Now the Chiefs took over for the Patriots dynasty, and we're promoting who the players get engaged to. That's where we're at. That is the definition of a bandwagon. And Kansas City now officially has the largest bandwagon of fans anywhere around the globe.
All right. Now, this is The Kingdom. For those that aren't watching, The Kingdom is something you can check out right now. Go to your Roku. I believe it's a Netflix, but either way, just go to your Roku. They'll figure out where to find it. By the way, it's my favorite thing to do when it comes to streaming, JT. What happens anytime someone tells you a new show? What is your first question to them? Where do I find it? Right? Yeah. My favorite functionality. Everyone should get a Roku. It's going to cost you $30 to $40. It turns your TV into a smarter TV. Trust me, if your TV is not already Roku enabled, do it because it's just so great. And you type into Roku, whatever show you want, and it'll take you wherever you got to go for it. You don't have to figure that part out. But The Kingdom is essentially, right now we're all watching this Cowboys doc with Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson. It's spectacular, right? I mean, it's so good, the making of that dynasty. But The Kingdom is essentially a live in this moment version of that, because we have to admit the Chiefs, despite the Super Bowl loss, that's a dynasty. That's a dynasty. It's Chiefs Kingdom, and they're calling it the Kingdom. Can I just say how much I disagree with you on this part of it? I love that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are together, and it happened. My love for it happened in a similar environment that you and I are in right now. When I watched Taylor Swift talk to her fiance now with his brother on that show for the first time in my life, I said, wow, Taylor Swift at the end of the day is just a girl dating a guy. Now that might feed your point, which is then why the hell is that news, Sammy? But JT, at that level, it gives hope to every one of us. You and I have to admit that the idea at some point in our lives that we would be engaged to or dating Taylor Swift, it never crossed our minds. And frankly, you have to understand, and if you watch them speaking about how they met, Travis Kelce had no idea how he was going to get into Taylor Swift's life. He had no idea. And then he rides an elevator down and he's trying to get close during her concert. And then she's there. He didn't, and she's even saying he didn't go to my PR team and ask. No, he went for, in the way, JT, you in your life, when you were making thousands of dollars selling stocks and you had to bang down doors to make it happen and nobody was better, you were convinced nobody's better on the planet than turning somebody that doesn't care at all about what I'm saying into putting money behind it. That's what Travis had to do to get Taylor Swift to say, not only do I want to hang out with you, I'm considering spending the rest of my life with you. It is one of the great, and those that don't think Travis Kelce's an underdog, I'm calling Kelce an underdog in this story in the way that Taylor now is with him. And she's ultimately, she doesn't have to be with anybody. You could argue maybe she shouldn't be with anybody, and she's with him. I find it to be a glorious love story and frankly, a sports story, because here's why. Sports has changed your life and sports has changed my life. And Travis Kelce is Taylor Swift's husband, which, by the way, to a lot of people, that's who he's going to be. They're going to know the first part better than the second part. Football changed his life for the access that he had to Taylor Swift to make this happen. And I'm just going to say, Tom Brady and Giselle, Josh Allen's got Haley Steinfeld. I root for those stories because anytime in our lives, in junior high school, when you wrote a girl a note, I like you, who do you like, 1, 2, 3, and you're hoping that you're on the list, this is a success story. And we talk about wins and success stories here. And I find it to be, it might be the most likable thing. Actually, I don't find much unlikable about the Chiefs. I'm jealous of the winning over the years, but I don't know, compared to the dynasty of the Patriots, can we admit that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are more likable faces of that than we now look back on Belichick and Brady? I'm sorry, but I think it, to me it is. And you've spent a lot of time licking wounds about Chiefs getting over in a division that the Raiders, over the course of the history of this league, the Raiders used to own that division. Let's be clear. The Raiders used to be what everybody was fighting to be. The Raiders used to set the tone as to what mattered in regards to success there. And now it's the Chiefs. So that's got to sting, but I don't find it unlikable. I don't think the ways they go about it is unlikable. And Taylor Swift, in a way, fits into that for me.
I could give a puck about this. I could give a crap about this. This is Hallmark BS. This is Entertainment Tonight. This isn't sports. Okay? This is not sports. I'm a sports talk radio host. I do sports. I don't do bits. I don't do this crap. I do sports a couple hours a day, sometimes 5, sometimes 3. So a couple of quick things on this. First off, I am the expert in Raider Nation on Travis Kelce because we haven't guarded him for a decade. We haven't put our hands on him. We haven't guarded him. We haven't done anything to stop him. Coach after coach after coach after GM after GM after GM has not been able to figure it out. I have figured it out. I've said on my broadcast, I've said it to coaches face to face. Put a linebacker over the top of them, hit him at the line of scrimmage, chip him, and have a safety over the top who's athletic and good. And Kelce beats good safeties. He's a Hall of Famer. Double team him and take him out of the game. That's what Belichick did. That's what Belichick did with everybody. But we can't do that in Oakland, and we couldn't do it in Vegas yet. So I talk Kelsey more than anybody in the Raider Nation. I don't need to see this crap about him getting engaged and his mom and his dad and his brother and the NFL shoving this shit down my throat. Okay, if you want to throw it on Entertainment Tonight and Access Hollywood, and you want to put it on Hallmark, and you want to put it on the Chiefs Kingdom, which I would never watch, I would never watch that garbage, then go ahead and do it. And it's just a way to distract people from sports. See, sports is supposed to distract people from politics and death and destruction and war. And we're not supposed to be breaking news on SportsCenter with a guy getting on his knee with a bunch of flowers behind him. That's soft as hell. It's great. My wife's a Swiftie. My wife loves Taylor Swift. She watches the shows online. She streams them. She's in the chats. She loves Taylor Swift. And I tell her in my home, walk gently with this. You married into Raider Nation. We don't support this bullshit. And I'm sick of it. And when they put it on ESPN and it broke on my phone, and it was the top story on Cut Down Day, where men's lives came to an end and they got fired in the NFL. They lost their jobs and they got moved to the practice squad. And this was trending as the number one story. It's everything JT the Brick's against in the third person, everything that I despise in sports. And it's soft as hell. It's soft as Charmin. And we are becoming a softer sports society, as I predicted to you almost 30 years ago. What is the world going to look like in 5 or 10 years with Instagram and all this? Are we going to have dating apps connected to ESPN.com and Yahoo? When someone dates someone, is a dating app going to be flagged and it's going to be breaking news at Yahoo?
JT, 5 years ago, no, 10 years ago, you and I have a very good friend, one of my best friends, Jason, you know him well. He was the ABC entertainment correspondent for all of their national radio. And he said to me, Sam, in this position over the years, it'll be my job to see some of the greatest icons in entertainment of all time. And if we get a chance to go do that live, I'm going to make sure we do it. And Taylor Swift was at what was then called Staples Center. And he said, we are going to see this in action. And I said, no problem. And at the time I'm thinking, am I really into her music? I have no idea. It's not necessarily something I think about, but I'd love to go and check this out in person. We go there. And what was the moment that sunk with me more than anything else? First of all, that was an amazing day. Kobe Bryant was on stage with her. It was unbelievable. And then she points to the rafters at Staples. And you know what unfurls? The Taylor Swift banner at Staples Center, crypto, for all of her performances and what she's done from that crowd. And my line from that day was, wow, the Clippers don't have a single thing hanging from those rafters, but
That's
Taylor
good.
Swift does.
That's
It was unbelievable. And I saw in that moment the power of who she was, and it connect forever. I think that made it okay. Seeing Kobe on stage with her, seeing the banner at Staples Crypto, that day solidified for me. You know what? She is on that level because we put certain people, we're so used to watching people in the Super Bowl. You opened me up to what the Champions League is. This is the stage that we're used to seeing people perform and excel and succeed at. And she's done it in her world in a way that, frankly, the Kingdom or Jerry's Dynasty or America's team can only hope to be.
Yeah, she's a pop star. She's the best of all time. She surpassed Madonna. She surpassed Mariah Carey, J-Lo, Beyonce. That's not what this conversation's about. This conversation simply is about crossover in life. Everything that crosses over. I speak for millions of people who are not Chief fans. The topic is twofold for me. Keep this out of my sports thread. I understand why it's there, but keep it out. And secondly, I despise bandwagon fans. I despise it. I don't care what sport it is. I don't care if it's the NBA. Look, Michael Jordan had one of the biggest bandwagon fan bases. The Bulls fans, the core, unbelievable fans. Sweat, heart and soul. Who was their best player before that? Jerry Sloan, right? Nobody.
No, he's not even worth talking about. Yeah.
Right. And then Jordan comes along and millions of fans around the globe became Bulls fans because of an individual athlete who dominated. Okay, I get that. I can live with that. I'm not interested in fans galvanizing to a team and gaining millions of fans because of a pop star. That's what I'm against. And am I jealous? Yeah, I'm jealous. I don't like the Chiefs. I don't like the Red Sox. If this happened with Big Papi in the heyday against the Yankees and he married some iconic global star and it was breaking on my ESPN app or Yahoo, I'd be just as pissed off. But the Kelsey thing is really interesting to me because I'm happy for any couple that gets married. We need more of that. And I'm happy for people that come together and find each other. And I think this is more than just a fake made for TV romance. There's probably some truth to it. Now, if you ask me to take the over under on the 5-year wedding anniversary as I'm going for 26, I'll take the under all day long. And I don't bet. Matter of fact, that might be the first bet I ever make is I'll take the under on that. But that's a topic for a different day.
We'll move on from this quickly. I love that you said it there, and maybe that should be the conversation. The conversation should be, let's put it into a sports context, over under on this thing. What are the legs? What are the chances? His career in the NFL, we'd have to imagine at best is another 2 seasons. That's what it looks like at the moment. And the only thing I'll ask you is if John Ritchie or Tyrone Wheatley, when the Raiders had the number 1 offense in football, which we can clearly say the Chiefs should be on that list every year. If Richie or T. Wheat were engaged to Madonna at the time, whoever we want to put on that level, would there be a level of excitement with this? Would we see it? And frankly, look, it's hard to go back 25 years, which is what we're doing now. And congrats to you and Julie again. But if we're going back then, we're talking, 01, 02 would be for those guys at the height of where they were. Would that be different? If it was a Raider, and the Raiders were at that level at that time, would that be a different story? Do we think that I think we'd wrap our hands around it. I also think the world would see it as kind of worlds colliding because I think the Chiefs are likable, whereas the Raiders, there's this vicious jealousness for when the Raiders are great. It's almost on that Cowboys level where you love to hate them when they're great. That really happens a lot in Raider Nation. And I wonder how likable this would be in the rest of the world because I think most of the world disagrees with you right now. And if it was a superstar Raider at the height of Raider success doing this, I bet the world would lash out at it.
Well, I think a better example would be Derek Jeter.
Okay.
Right? I'm a big Yankee fan. Derek Jeter, there's a meme out there. There's a TikTok of every woman he dated from catcher to first base to the outfield. And it's the greatest thing ever because it's all just superstars. Minka Kelly, everybody there. And every time Derek Jeter was dating someone, it would go on the New York Post back cover. But it didn't break into the ESPN headlines. And Derek Jeter is probably more famous than Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce now because of Taylor Swift. They're both Hall of Famers and icons. But as we get off this topic, a lot of people in the chat are going nuts and upset about it. Some love it. This is a girl topic. I just said it. This is a girl topic. And girl topics are great. I'm a boy dad. If I had a girl, I'd love this. I'd sit down and I'd talk to my daughter about this. This is a girl topic. It's great for the couple that came together. I am hardcore Raider Nation. We don't support any of this BS. We don't want any of it on our timeline. We want to beat the Chiefs. We're the last team to beat the Chiefs. Segue in Arrowhead, Aiden O'Connell, who's just injured, and we got Kenny Pickett, who last time Kenny Pickett played, he put his knee down in the Super Bowl with confetti raining down. The Raiders just signed a Super Bowl champion quarterback as a backup, no less, in Kenny Pickett.
All right, let's do what we're here to do. All right. The season is here. We're a week away. All right. And again, we're going to get to a couple things. We're going to get to JT's tip of the trade, which has a lot to do with what you do during football season. And again, for all of the significant others out there, understand what Labor Day is. It's your last kiss a few people goodbye in your life because their lives are going to change and so is yours as far as them being in it. And we're going to talk about your gauntlet coming up. But I want to set us up for a topic right now about the season in a very real way. Let's transition hard from maybe the soft topic that we started with here in Kelsey and Swift. Every season we see new teams that surprise us, that do something amazing. Let's call it Washington last season for a team that was so exceeded what we could have thought coming into the season to wind up in the championship game. They're the Final Four of the NFL, and there they were in a game where, at least for a moment, they sniffed the Super Bowl. is there going to be that team this year? And again, every season it seems, and just about I believe it does, there's a worst to first story. Every year you take a division and there's a team that was in last place the season before that is contending for or winning that division. And I just want to run down all the teams and then you and I can discuss and pick out a few that would have a shot at this, because a team we talk about a lot, the Raiders are in this, a team that we both know well from the Bay Area. Also, the Niners are in this conversation. We're talking Patriots, Browns, Titans, Raiders, Giants, Bears, Saints, Niners. Those are the teams. Those are the last place teams we're discussing. And I'm going to say something so you don't have to be framed as the guy that said this. I'm going to take it from you right now. All right. And we can discuss it together, but I'm going to take the brunt of it because I'm so bullish about it. Now, worst to first is a lot. You got to climb a lot of ground. But again, this isn't in the standings with 2 games to go that I'm saying worst to first. Yeah. This is 17 chances to go worst to first, right? This is 17 games. Everybody's at 0-0 right now. This isn't a team in the wild card standings that has to jump 4 to get into it. This is everybody at 0. I'm going to talk about the Raiders, and here's why. When you look at the offseason, and yesterday the rosters became sealed and shut, right? This team, this Raiders team, when you talk about facelifts, when you look at a team from the previous season and ask yourself what they look like coming into 2025, close your eyes and imagine every team and picture what you want about them in 2024, and then look at a roster and see what they're doing for 2025 and check out who's in the coaching staff. There isn't a team with a greater makeover in this league than the Raiders. And that's surprising because it's a team that, frankly, from a brand standpoint, is locked into people's minds. Silver and black always represents certain things in this league. And yet this team is so remarkably different than it was months ago. When you change quarterback, running back, coach, offensive coordinator, sign your best defensive player, and have the number 1 tight end heading into the season, you are in a much different spot than you were the season before. Geno Smith, Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, Ashton Jeanty. Those are just the new names. If we didn't talk about anybody that was even on the team, and I'm excited about plenty of people that were on the team, but if you just talked about the new pieces, I'm sorry, but number 2 for the 49ers, forgetting his name right now, is still asking people who the kid with the ball was that hit him 2 weeks ago in that preseason game when Jeanty decided, oh, you got a hole for me? Watch what I can do in a hole. Ashton Jeanty in that moment, call it preseason, call it what you want. When you say the word beast mode, there's been nobody that's been at that level. And frankly, Marshawn shared that jersey and looked pretty great coming back to the Bay Area in silver and black. And I understand his glory years were not there, but Ashton Jeanty looks every bit of that, and we won't get excited until we're 5 weeks into the season. But if you're asking for someone who looks the part, it is certainly that guy. And in regards to what you're getting out of quarterback play heading into the season versus last season, and now looking at this season with Geno, and when you look, and we love Antonio Pierce. I mean, from your Giants days and what he meant, and again, we talk about that last win against the Chiefs in Arrowhead on Christmas Day. Antonio Pierce is a leader of men. And he will lead men in his life. The rest of his life, he will lead men. He's got that. But in regards to head coach, what Pete Carroll brings to the table, in regards to what offensive scheme can mean for this team, Chip Kelly, love him or hate him, if you're an Eagles fan or a Niners fan as your head coach, but as your offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly's a mastermind. Chip Kelly is Sean McVay before Sean McVay. Let's get it clear. Let's remember what he did at Oregon. And frankly, he led the Eagles to back-to-back 10-win seasons. Forget about what happened at the end. But he made Mark Sanchez somebody. And frankly, for those that remember Nick Foles in Philadelphia, Nick Foles' greatest complete season, guess who his head coach was? Nick Foles. He threw for, you remember it well. Guess what, Raiders fans? Nick Foles threw 7 touchdowns against the Raiders when Chip Kelly was his coach. All right. He was in the MVP conversation. Chip Kelly can do things. So I'm not putting you on the spot about this. I'm the one that's saying I'm bullish. I'm bullish about this Raiders team having an opportunity to be so much better than last season. You want to tell me maybe it's not first place, Sam? Get out of here with first place. Fine. But if you're looking at worst place, last place teams in a division from the season before, I like the Raiders out of the basement. How about give me that? Give me that. This team has an opportunity here to collect wins and to be in a conversation that they haven't been in a couple of years. And it hasn't been that long, everybody. They had the Bengals in a playoff game the year Cincinnati went to the Super Bowl. So let's not pretend that this team doesn't know what it's like to get on a playoff run. It happens. It happens with interim coaches. It happens. So we've seen a lot. This team has an opportunity. And if you're stacking up the last place teams, the Niners might have the easiest schedule, but nobody's had a facelift like these Raiders.
Yeah, I think the Raiders as an organizational chart with the addition of Tom Brady and Pete Carroll probably have changed the most out of every team in the NFL. And then with Geno Smith and Chip Kelly, the highest paid coordinator ever, Patrick Graham, who was the finalist to be the head coach of the Jaguars, he's the defensive coordinator. The Raiders are vastly improved if everybody stays healthy. They don't have a lot of depth. They don't have really any big-time corners, which is concerning. You know, it is. Jacorian Bennett went to your Eagles, and he was arguably the best guy they had, and they let him go. So that's a concern for me. But Maxx Crosby, as you mentioned, yeah, I think if the Raiders were in the AFC South, I would say worst to first. They're in the AFC West, and as much as I was ripping Kansas City a few minutes ago, I can't see them leaping over Kansas City in the standings. What I'd like to see the Raiders do is they beat Denver 8 in a row for 4 years, and then they got swept by Denver last year, and they usually split with the Chargers, and the Chargers are different. That's a different podcast and stream. But I'd like to see the Raiders go from last to maybe 9 wins, 10 wins, and be in consideration to do this. They have a gauntlet of a schedule just because they're in the AFC West and they're playing the NFC East. So they have Philly in Philly, Washington in Washington, Dallas on Monday Night Football. You know, it's a tough schedule. And, you know, getting off the Raiders, I think the Raiders will be vastly improved. The Niners have the wildest schedule. I think we talked about this a month ago.
Yeah.
The Niners have the easiest schedule I've ever seen for a last place team. It's remarkable because the Giants have the hardest schedule I've ever seen for a last place team. Now, if the Giants had an easy schedule and the Niners had an easy schedule, I wouldn't say anything. But compare the Niners and the Giants schedule and your head will pop.
Yeah.
So as you talk about the Giants have this cool differential stat going with them. The Giants front is sick. The Giants got 4 edge rushers who are playing on the field at the same time. So they're going to blow up some games just on strip sacks and things that you just handicappers don't know when a strip sack's going to come on a team 6-yard line. They don't know. And the Giants can do that, but their schedule is going to be really tough. And then I think the Niners will go from worst to first or second and be a playoff team, no doubt. And then out of all the other teams that you mentioned, I think the Raiders will be improved. The Giants are improved, but they're not going to go anywhere with the schedule. The Titans, I didn't watch a lot of Titans. I saw some Cam Ward highlights. I think they'll be better, but they're not a year away. They're 2 years away. And the Bears intrigue me because the Bears have a good roster and they completely upgraded their offensive line with 3 new starters. So they're going to protect Caleb Williams a little bit better. He's got receivers and a tight end who are good. And they're fundamentally based as a defensive outdoor cold weather football team. I think the Bears are that team that we got to be talking about a little bit more with their schedule. I mean, I think it's a pick'em game when they play Minnesota with J.J. McCarthy, who's never played a game. You traded for Adam Thielen, but you left Sam Darnold go after 14-2. Okay, you were really close, Minnesota, and you let a 14-2 quarterback go. Oh, he didn't play good in the last game. Yeah, he's playing Detroit. Detroit was the best team in football. He didn't play well in the playoff game. You're right. Didn't play a great game in the playoff game. The competition's better. So, you know, the Packers are pretty good, but they're not world beaters. So I think the Bears are a team that I'm keeping a real close eye on, Sam.
Well, I love that you said that. And I want to just make, one more point in regards to the Raiders schedule. You're right. It's doing nobody any favors, but this is all for the Raiders. I think success could be clearly defined by one thing. If they went 3-3 in the division, that would be massive.
If the Raiders, If the Raiders went 3-3 in the division, they're a lock to go to the playoffs. A lock. If they go 3-3 in the division, they are a lock to go to the playoffs. That's 3 wins out of the 10 they need with Jacksonville, Tennessee, the Giants, the Browns. The list goes on and on. I'll find you 7 other wins, but 3-3 in the division is a big deal. But fortunately, Pete Carroll's beat all these coaches multiple times. So he's the guy to go do it.
He is the guy to go do it. And let's look again at the list of teams, and you said Bears, and I want to go back to the Giants quickly because that's an interesting one. We think the Raiders will be improved when you're really going worst to first. The Niners, if you look at the Vegas odds right now, the Niners are the team that everyone has poised to go clearly worst to first, and their schedule is the easiest we've seen in 10 years. There's not been an easier schedule. Now that's what happens when you finish in last place. Guess what? When you finish in last place, you get that benefit. You get to play a last place schedule. And the difference between what the Niners schedule is and what the Rams schedule is, that's what happens. This is what it comes down to. The bottom line is when you're the Niners, look at these games, the games that stand out for the Niners, the swing games are this. Look at it this way. This is what happens. This is the difference, everybody, between last place and first place. When you go and you slide down to week 9 for the Niners, that Giants game is an Eagles game. That the Rams have to play. All right. And then slide over to week 13. That Browns game for the Niners is a Ravens game for the Rams. And slide down here, week 17. That Bears game is a Lions game for the Rams. So that's where your opportunity lies. But the other team that I really want to discuss here is the Giants. Now, again, as an Eagles fan and clearly with the Super Bowl champs there, can you really say worst to first? Maybe not. But let me share something that I shared with my cousin Joe, who's a huge Giants fan. Uncle David's son Joe is, for some reason, even though we're all Eagles fans, he's a Giants fan. But I had to share this with him because you want to joke about what the Giants may have done. But I want to remind everyone, for those that question the Giants front office, Jackson Dart, and you know this, JT, on draft day, you know who wanted to draft Jackson Dart? You know who had him on the card ready to hand in? Sean McVay and Les Snead. That's the guy they wanted. They told Matthew Stafford to go look. Remember, Matthew Stafford was told to go, if he wants to find other work, to go talk to other things. Matthew Stafford may have been a Giant. Matthew Stafford may have been a Jet. There were moments in time. And then they said, all right, we reworked his contract, whatever that means, and he's back and we're excited. And then on draft day, they said, just Jackson Dart kid would be nice, backing up Stafford, being the next Stafford. And what happened? Your Giants came in and traded ahead of the Rams to take Dart. And what happened then? The Rams traded out of the first round and said, we don't even need a first rounder. So the Giants, theoretically, no matter what you think of Russell Wilson, no matter what you think of Jameis, but if Jackson Dart, Malik Neighbors, and Carter are the future of that team, the cornerstones of that team, look at this. Giants preseason, this is what it says. They're the 8th team since 2009 to finish a preseason with a point differential of plus 60. 6 of the previous 7, because remember, they're the 8th. So 6 of the previous 7 made the playoffs. 2 of those 7 won the Super Bowls. And those 7 teams combined had 11 wins per season on average.
That's big.
That's amazing. So if you want to say that history repeats itself on the Giants, I mean, if the Giants have 11 wins, that's the greatest turnaround. There it is in the NFC East again.
Yeah, and let me just say this about the Giants. I've always been a believer in Russell Wilson, all right? A believer in him. There's no guy in the league since Brady retired who prepares for a game better than him. Nobody, I repeat, nobody prepares for a game the way Russell Wilson does in the classroom, on the field, coverages, checkdowns. Russell Wilson is number one. Drew Brees is gone. He was there. Peyton Manning and Brady. Now Russell Wilson is that guy. Let me tell you something. If Russell Wilson gets the ball out on time and the Giants turn the ball over and the Giants give him a short field and Malik Neighbors is going over the top and Russell Wilson throws one of the best deep balls in football, the Giants have a puncher's chance to win a couple of games in the fourth quarter where last year they were just blown out in the fourth quarter. They couldn't come back in those games. They didn't have the ability to do that. So I think the Giants, what they have to figure out is when will it be this year where they bench Russell Wilson and turn the team over to Jackson Dart? Because that's the moment they put up the white flag and say, we're done. We're not going to compete with the Eagles. We're not competing for the wild card. We're out. We're going to get Jackson Dart ready to go. Remember, we saw something unique. Kurt Warner was the quarterback who started ahead of Eli Manning when Eli Manning was drafted. And he played the brunt of that season until Eli came in. And then they gave Eli the reins, and the rest is history. That's what I think is going to happen to Jackson Dart. But if what Russell Wilson is 3-3, Sam, or 3-4, he ain't going to the bench. The Giants, if Brian Daboll's one game under 500 in week 7 or 8, you better believe his job's on the line and he'll stay with Russell Wilson.
I love that you brought up Kurt Warner and Eli Manning. And I'll remind everybody, by the way, Jerome McDougal, Manning's first game, Eli's first game, Jerome McDougal of the Eagles nearly ended Eli Manning's life that day on the field.
Yes, I remember that well.
It was a devastating hit where Eli was looking the opposite way. It was a blindside hit that I'm sure would have been 15 yards in today's game. But wow, when Eli Manning came in for Kurt Warner to start his career. I only want to say this much. In regards to the white flag for the Giants, there is another way to think about it. The Falcons played a Week 17 game against Washington last season with Michael Penix as their quarterback. Had they won that game, and they lost it in overtime, had they won that game, they're playing for the division in Week 18. The Falcons are playing for the division in Week 18 if they don't lose in overtime to the Commanders on Sunday Night Football in Week 17 last year. And that's with Kirk Cousins starting the season and throwing for a 500-yard game against the Buccaneers. So there is a scenario also where Russell Wilson plays well for a little bit, and then either is showing signs of not being quite the same guy. Kirk Cousins happened to get hurt, as we found out in the quarterback series, and then Penix comes in and leads what could have been a run to a division title. Different division, NFC South, NFC East, but maybe it doesn't have to be white flag, and it can be, we're going to try this now.
Yeah, one other game I want to leave you with on this before we move on to the test is the Niners opening up in Seattle. I was just in Seattle. The Raiders played them to a tie in the preseason. That building in the fourth quarter of a preseason game is about as loud as you can get in Seattle with the 12s. The Niners are banged up. They had 18 guys hurt a couple of weeks ago when they were here in Vegas with their joint practice with the Raiders. Who's their number one receiver? Juwan Jennings?
Yeah, Juwan Jennings is not even – no, Juwan Jennings is not happening. It's Ricky Pearsall right now. Right now it's Ricky Pearsall.
Okay, so that's not Jerry Rice and John Taylor. But Kittle's their number one receiver. If Seattle steals that game and wins that game in the division, I'm going to have a different opinion on the Niners. If the Niners go into Seattle and they win that game, and they're the better team, I think, the better team when they're at full strength, and bringing in Robinson behind McCaffrey was brilliant. They got a two-headed monster now that is as good as any team in football because McCaffrey's not going to play 17 games, and Stafford's not going to play 17 games, i.e. Jimmy G. So some guys are not going to play the full season. If Seattle can jump the Niners at home in week one, that will really get my attention in the NFC West.
I love it. We're going to go to the tip of the trade here. The only thing I want to say about, you brought up Brian Robinson. If you look at the best duos of backs in this league, I'd have to say right now it's Lions 1, Niners 2. I'd love to hear in the chat if there's a better one. I mean, I have a lot on Jeanty, but when you're talking about a duo and a running back room, it's Lions 1, Niners 2 right now. And for Kyle Shanahan, that's going to make a difference. And I love Walker and Charbonnet in Seattle also, but I really think 1, 2. Brian Robinson's a number 1 last year. I mean, Brian Robinson is fantasy relevant, and we know Christian McCaffrey for a while was the lock number 1 fantasy player. And I understand it's not a fantasy league, but at running back, it kind of is. That's pretty special. Gibbs and Montgomery, I'll still give it to for what they've done, but McCaffrey, Robinson, JT, this is my favorite part of what we do anytime we get together. And you and I, we talk tips of the trade to each other to give advice all the time. Because you're setting the tone, and you're setting new rules about what it means to broadcast, not only in this space, but in the radio space, in the digital space, in the TV space. You've been doing shit different for so long. San Francisco, Los Angeles, Las Vegas. The Raiders followed you to Las Vegas. Let's get it straight there. You went there first, and then it happened, which is amazing. But I told everybody that the lives of wives and husbands everywhere are going to change this weekend. Yeah. You think you're celebrating, well, when Sunday turns to Monday and you realize what's actually happening the following Sunday, everybody's life is different now because this schedule guarantees that. The NFL schedule locks in. And look, I'm not a huge fan of Thursday Night Football because of families. I thought football, the sanctity of Sunday was beautiful with one extra day on Monday. I thought taking Thursday for 18 weeks, 16, 17 weeks from everybody is a little aggressive, the bomb that it throws into your week all of a sudden. Your life, I want you to run down the shopping list of what you are saddled with during a season. And here's why. I also want to remind everyone this. I'm talking regular season, but I just want to remind everyone that the preseason, talk about JJ McCarthy. Well, his great game still on paper is a game that you called as the play-by-play voice of Raiders preseason, by the way. JJ McCarthy, Sam Darnold doesn't have a job with the Vikings because of the game you called last preseason when JJ McCarthy got hurt, but he was also so good in that game. The Vikings said, we've seen enough. So you call preseason games for the Raiders. And this year we had a bonus We had a legendary Raider welcome to the Hall of Fame and Eric Allen, a guy we both love dearly. And you were hugely involved in the Hall of Fame weekend as well for that. So you already had a remarkably packed preseason. Now the regular season begins. We've got Silver and Black Productions. We've got Las Vegas radio shows. We've got YouTube streams. We've got Mad Dog Radio, and we've got Raiders commitments every single week of the season. Run us down. If you want to run down a typical week, if you want to run down the most ridiculous week, I want you to tell us the tip of the trade is, how do you navigate football season as a broadcaster who's not only doing it with a national voice, a huge national voice that has impact every night, and also commitments, not just to excellence, but specifically commitments to the Raiders throughout the entire season, along with being a powerful national voice? How do you navigate that? And by the way, an incredible husband and father. Go for it.
Well, this is a big one. This could actually be my busiest year where I'm double dipping. So let's start Sunday. Okay, not this Sunday because it's Labor Day weekend, but week one of the NFL. So Sunday, I'll anchor the Raiders pre- and post-game show from the stadium, a home game. I got to drive. I park at the stadium. I go up. I walk the field. Then I go to the Torch, which is the biggest crowd of all 32 teams for a pregame show. Thousands of people next to the biggest bar west of Austin, Texas, in the stadium. I do the pre, then I do the post-game, then I drive home. And I do Mad Dog Sports Radio from 7 to 10 Pacific. So Sunday, no one has a longer day than me on Sunday. Nobody. It's impossible unless you're doing a talk show Sunday night for 3 hours. And I don't know many people who are. So you got that. Then Monday morning, I wake up and I do a TV show with Eric Allen. It's a Raiders recap television show in Vegas on Fox 5. Then I do my noon to 2 show. Then I do 8 to 11 p.m. Pacific on Mad Dog Monday. Tuesday, noon to 2, Raiders Radio, 8 to 11, Mad Dog. And then Wednesday, I interview the head coach of the Raiders, Pete Carroll. I do a live stream on YouTube for the Raiders on top of my Raiders radio show. And then Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, unfortunately, I'm off. So if I can MC an event in town or whatever, I can do that. And that's it. So with the podcast, with what I'm doing with Tom Looney once a week, I'm going to launch a new podcast with an NFL Hall of Famer. That announcement's coming. And then my big thing, Sam, is, I got 15, 16 clients in Vegas, partners, that I have to handle every week. That's live reads on the radio. That's texting these partners and finding out what's changing in their business model for my show, which takes up a lot more time than hosting the show. So from Sunday all the way through the week, the only night off I have is Friday and Saturday because I work Sunday, and I love it. And someday I'm not going to have any of those jobs. I have 3 full-time jobs: the Raiders, working on Raiders Radio, and working on Mad Dog Sports Radio 3 nights a week. I could not do 5 nights a week on Mad Dog. Not that that was offered to me, but it is gorgeous that I get 3 nights a week nationally, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, to talk football. And that preps me for my daytime shows, because when I turn the machine off at 11 at night, I don't got to wake up at 6 in the morning with a bunch of people serving me bagels and coffee telling me about what I missed, because I watched Ohtani hit a walk-off at 10 o'clock Pacific, and I'm watching games and hockey games and all this. So I'm very blessed and grateful for the amount of work I have. But in this great year where I will turn 6-0, that is an amazing amount of work and a lot of work. Most couldn't do it because most have never done it. And if they did it, they'd freak out once it was week 3 or 4. I don't think I'm going to freak out by week 3 or 4, but it's a daunting schedule and I'm up for it.
It's daunting. It's a gauntlet. You're prepared for it. And I want to remind everyone the moniker. So JT and I go back to 1999, and upon arrival in the Bay Area to see what I thought, we worked with legends and around legends. Okay. Greg Papa, we've already spoken to, and we wish him the best. And we love Greg Papa, and he did amazing work there. But frankly, the guy that you know very well, of course, Jim Rome was doing huge things at that time. Scotty Farrell. I mean, the sports babe was a thing back then. We had people that were working hard, or at least seemingly working hard, or at least getting the credit for working hard. The hardest working man in sports talk, and I got to credit, look, for everything that Ticket 1050 was just building to become. They figured that out. JT the Brick's the hardest working guy, and here's why. On that station on 1050, let's remind everybody that this is Monday through Friday, and really Sunday through Friday, if you really want to look at it. You were on middays on 1050 for 3 hours, and you were heard at night on Sports Fan Radio Network for 5 hours. 8 hours. You have to understand something. Every hour of content that somebody does, you have to understand, at the very minimum, give that then an hour of prep associated with it. Let's just say let's try to do that math for people. If you're going to do an hour of content, you should put 45 minutes to an hour into what you want to do if you really want to do it well. And if you're trying to do it over the course of many different hours, you got to have different spins and slightly different ways of saying things and ready to go in a direction. And a caller could take you on a tangent that you never expected. So you got to be prepared. 8 hours on the radio doesn't mean 8 hours of work. 8 hours on the radio back then meant 15 and 16 hours of work in a day, where you eventually even got married a couple of years later. I mean, hardest working man in sports talk. You lived it, you breathed it, you did it. And in so many ways, the younger version of yourself would say, yeah, I'll eat that for lunch. You just said it. You're turning 60 and you're still pulling that off.
Yeah, Sam, the legacy question, I'm not looking to stop anytime soon. Why do you think I'm doing this today with you? Because I love you as a friend, and I think what you do is great. But I had a caller the other night said to me, he goes, you sound like a billboard, because I'm talking about what I do. And I say, yeah, because no one buys me a billboard. That's been my philosophy my whole career. Most of the program directors I've worked for, and I got some good ones now, they don't promote me. They don't. So I have to promote myself. So if I tell someone I'm doing something this week or that week, it's just to get the word out. Maybe someone will donate to the charity that I'm emceeing an event for. Maybe something will happen. But let it be clear. Let this be clear, because the format's changing. Sports radio is changing fast and dramatically. No one will ever talk to as many people on the radio as I have at night in the history of sports radio. I don't need a trophy at some sports radio convention. It'll never happen, because the guys who do late night radio like me and do a great job, they don't have a 5-day-a-week local show. They don't have a full-time job for an NFL team that I'm aware of. So I embrace all this work. It's changed my life. It's helped my family and my kids. I'm not going to do it forever, but I don't see, am I on the back nine? I'm in the beginning of somewhere on the back nine, but I can't see the clubhouse anywhere out in the future. And someday it's going to happen to all of us. They're going to say goodbye. And I'm going to have no regrets. I'm going to think of all those nights at 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, looking at my screen. No one's on hold. Man, I got 18 minutes I got to do, man. No one's on hold. I got to get the phones going. I got to do that. That provided tremendous energy to keep that level up. Fortunately, I still have that energy. And I have really cool platforms on Raider Nation Radio and Silver and Black Productions, and most importantly, Mad Dog Radio at night, and my YouTube channel, thank you, right here, which you helped build. So I'm going to do this for a while, man. And, when it's all said and done, people will say, JT the Brick blank. Not all of it will be nice. Not all of it's going to be kind. But no one will ever have talked to more people than me. Ever. There's not a 19-year-old, a 22-year-old, a 30-year-old guy coming up who's going to achieve what I achieved in this 30-year run. I wish everyone well. Hey, I wasn't the morning guy. I wasn't on midday syndicated on 200 stations. I found my niche. And fortunately, that niche is still alive and cooking, baby. Sound off like you got a pair.
That niche you carved, you created, and you've done it. And you mentioned the back nine. There are some golfers that set the course record on the back nine.
Nice. Scotty Scheffler at the Masters, or Jordan Spieth. You notice I got the Ryder Cup hat on.
I see it.
Want to talk about show prep. I was up this morning watching Keegan Bradley introduce his captain's picks. Did your other favorite sports talk host do that? Did your other favorite sports talk host know the captain's picks? You got to be prepped. Part of the tip of the day, we were talking about how to get ready for NFL season. Just go to football games or watch football games. Don't count on the associate producer to write in the teleprompter what you missed. You got to watch the games, man. College and pro. Like, I'm not going to watch every college football game, but I'm going to watch Arch Manning at the shoe. I'm going to watch LSU. I'm going to see Clemson LSU, and I'm going to tune in to Miami, the Convicts versus the Catholics week 1. and feel like I know a little bit about sports. And I will not be talking about Taylor Swift. I'll be talking about football.
We wrapped it up beautifully, JT. The tip of the trade. We want to give everybody that. Like and subscribe both at JT the Brick on his channel. Like and subscribe right here. Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam, where you get plenty of content from Andrew Siciliano and myself. We've got a podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam. JT, this is always a pleasure. 45 minutes of free content we like to give you, and it just happened. We even bonused with a little overtime on it. But JT, you have an amazing, by the way, This is barely the beginning of JT's day, just so everyone understands it. So JT, go kick ass the rest of the day. You and I will be talking through this entire football season. We love you here, and we're so thrilled that all of you are here to enjoy JT in these many different ways that you can find him.
Sam, you're the best. Let's do this more. I like combining our audiences. All the best to Andrew. I was texting him about Kenny Pickett and other things too, Amari Cooper and some of the moves there. So give Andrew my best, and we'll do this again real soon.
I love you, JT. Everybody, have a great one.